Lamsey report. Then this company never bid for or executed the contract. Its directors say the contract documents were forged. Now take a listen to this. This BMABA enterprise, which according to the investigations of EOCO, they were awarded a contract which they describe as fictitious to the tune of $5,872,500. The directors of this company say they never bid for any contract for district needs assessment and a Galamsey report. So as to how their name as a company was roped in there, gently used to layer and disguise the stolen funds, according to EOCO's, this detail that we're getting from the court documents. So one, the company's director said, we don't know anything about this contract over $5 million awarded to us. Two, over $5.3 million paid. This money paid to this company with fictitious documentation then was used to procure another company, same directors, no real services rendered. A witness has admitted, according
BBS Madanis Records about Jaman for baby now catching the it is finished. But Madanish video from mobile WhatsApp area. So what your comment section is to the news. According to you maybe, according to us at now information over outdoor. EOCO. Cha watch Dennis Records about dinner seats and the bill of the man na. In summer I had to say to the way freeze in Japatano. TV3 Akaya is you maybe. Now according to information as given by EOCO, TV3 years was able to know. The information na chade. In Semebi Rokodo, na dama some no record in fact, as semi basic ukruma. Now, on Cherry, any dama freezing of properties for Dennis Mercos about you. Communicator of the MPP, the baby ano in with there. Talk shows, interviews back to back. A man from a catch and Omana Nunko for because we will see autumn John Domani Mahama on Yanabano on easy. But well, and come on wassa. Since according to information on the ground, no, there is two other people will be at once so what we do in addition to Dennis Mercos Abajo case anymore. Now, more my case ni cry more disturbing there. Say Esha, Obatina do what oil baby, I know one that ministerial oil position one that the ministerial oil corporation one and what's more ye according to information, no, two other people now abakano. One is a company, and a crow ye will be a oil accountant. In the accountant, they work some, so that is fine. Then it's about Marco Sabajo, so count in a company, no. Now, Dama company, but didn't know what the Dama company was the count. What's that Dama company, no. Then it's Marco Sabajo, Sanshare director, or now, according to certain information, be the Chade. Sekebia was sending from time and another, that's Marco Sabajo, or as executive director, no. Sekebia was sending what to call company, you know. And it will be a company there are. Time Dennis Records about it. Ena, Otterdono. Why, yes, car, when you may be, was any skibby with the mouth. Now, your paddy would age one away, Anna. No company look tree in something in other day. In Yaza, wobble on whatever about your contract and put. Ena Sabi, Dennis Miracles about Jacka were on contract. Now, there is nothing like a contract. Now, one by one will put message, one by baby for a contract. Ena, Irocos Mew. Ah, but what do I also this couple do? Nesekano wa haneska raba. It's over na Eric can some to me. Into what documents will be in according to TV3 or Chade, document the crown, no a forged. Now that may issue ya why that Chama to be the debut. Now Chama to be in the second case, no. It is getting a little bit surprising. But what's the video from what was happening via Chawa document section?
Organized Crime Office EOCO has secured court order confirming the freezing of bank accounts and landed properties of MPPs Dennis Edward Aboaje, also known as Miracles, and Maxwell Kofi Juma. Now, we have some exclusive detail for you on this particular issue. So I need you to stay with me quite closely with this exclusive detail that we have secured here on Ghana Tonight. And Accra High Court earlier today confirmed an order freezing 5 bank accounts and 4 landed property belonging to Dennis Miracles Aboaje as part of the wider freeze covering accounts linked to one Gerald Appiah, was said to be an accountant of this particular Interministerial Committee on Decentralization that Dennis Miracles Abwagi was executive secretary of, and the company, there's a company called Hillside Piggery and Meat Processing Limited. Now, this Hillside Piggery and Meat Processing Limited, we understand Dennis Miracles Abwagi is linked to that company as its director, right? But the order was granted on an application filed by the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO. Now, we're learning a bit more about what the investigators at EOCO are probing and have got some detail, exclusive detail for you here on Ghana Tonight. As we do know, he arrived from a trip to the UK. He was picked up by EOCO officials on this particular charge of the suspect, the suspicion they had, that's EOCO had, of the misappropriation of funds, misapplication, diversion, and theft of approximately 55 million in public funds. If you recall, when he was released from the EOCO custody, Dennis Miracles Abwagi said, look, there was no question about 55 million Ghana cedis that EOCO asked him. Well, EOCO maintained their path on the investigations. The statement they issued earlier said they were being investigated for conspiracy to steal, number one, stealing and using public office for personal profit. Other alleged offenses include causing financial loss to the state, dissipation of public funds, defrauding by false pretenses, money laundering, as well as other suspected offenses. So this last part of this statement from EOCO, other suspected offenses, is a broad one. You know, one that would rope in other offenses that they couldn't specifically state, apart from all of what they had mentioned about dissipation of public funds, defrauding by false pretenses, money laundering, and so on, causing financial loss to the state. Now, here's what we're learning today, and this is some exclusive detail we're getting from the documents that we have received exclusively here on Ghana Tonight. This is it. These are the three persons that EOCO is coming up against in court. The first respondent is Dennis Edward Abwagi, the former executive secretary of the Interministerial Committee on Decentralization. That's the Coordinating Committee on Decentralization. The second respondent, Gerard Appiah, is an accountant linked to the said transactions under investigation. Then the third respondent is Hillside Piggery and Meat Processing Limited, the company where Dennis Miracles Abwagi is said to be a director. That's like an official person also roped into this particular case. So these are the three persons EOCO is asking questions of in court. Now, this is it. What we're learning is that as a petition that was filed in March 2026, alleging financial and procurement irregularities during Miracles Abwagi's tenure as the executive secretary spanned between August 2022 and February 2025, EOCO investigating money laundering, causing financial loss to the state, and procurement breaches. Both Miracles and Gerald were arrested, cautioned, granted bail. Then there was some fictitious 5,872,500 contract awarded to Bimaba, 5,872,500 contract awarded to Bimaba Enterprise for a district needs assessment and Galamsey report. Then this company never bid for or executed the contract. Its directors say the contract documents were forged. Now take a listen to this. This BMABA Enterprise, which according to the investigations of EOCO, they were awarded a contract which they describe as fictitious to the tune of 5,872,500. The directors of this company say they never bid for any contract for district needs assessment and a Galamsey report. So as to how their name as a company was roped in there and that they were awarded a contract, they said, look, they don't know anything about this. And that the documents that EOCO showed them were forged. Also, that this Interministerial Coordinating Committee on Decentralization paid this company, whose directors say they don't know anything about the contract, some 5,362,010 Ghana cedis, regardless of the directors of the company saying, one, they didn't know, and two, the documents being forged. So that's an area they were looking into. This same company funneled the money to procure Masters Limited. Bear this in mind. If you've been listening to how things have been playing out right from last year, when the Attorney General has been addressing the press on the modus operandi of some of the investigations that they are into, you would understand the trend of events, right? So this company is said to have funneled the money to procure Masters Limited and Zone Construction Limited, the same directors, no real services rendered. Then this scheme allegedly used to layer and disguise the stolen funds, according to EOCO's, this detail that we're getting from the court documents. So one, the company's director said, we don't know anything about this contract over 5 million awarded to us. Two, over 5.3 million paid. This money paid to this company with fictitious documentation then was used to procure another company, same directors, no real services rendered. A witness has admitted, according to documents we have, to handling cash to Miracle Sabuaje at his Spintex home and wiring the rest to Hillside Piggery on Miracle Sabuaje's instructions. That's according to what EOCO is saying. Yes. Then, separately, there's some 19 million Ghana cedis in public funds placed in an investment without Finance Ministry approval. So there's an investment that was made, 19 million in public funds. The Finance Ministry's record did not support this, or approving a decision for this public funds to be moved into this investment account. 558,466 Ghana cedis in interest on that investment allegedly was diverted by Gerard Appiah, was the accountant at the time, via PNY Investment Limited. That's another company. So right now we're talking about this, about the fourth company right now with Miracle Sabuaje's knowledge. That's according to EOCO. 4.3 million released to GAPT for activities outside the Interministerial Coordinating Committee on Decentralization's mandate. GAPT has not accounted for the said money, 4.3 million. EOCO issued this administrative freezing directives 16th and 20th of July 2026 on the accounts of Miracle Sabuaje and Gerald and their properties. They applied to the court for confirmation order, and the court granted this freezing order. So this is the sequence of events, and this is what we're getting to know so far. This exclusive detail from what EOCO has been telling the courts regarding how Dennis Miracle Sabuaje's bank accounts and property, and that of Gerard as well, were frozen. And this is the detail that since morning, a number of you have been feeding on. 7-bedroom residential property owned by Dennis Miracle Sabuaje in Latte. Then there's 2-bedroom residential property in the Spintex Road area, that's in Spintex, beg your pardon. Then there's residential apartments in Ajirigano, approximately 15 acres of land owned by Miracles in Latte. And there are 5 bank accounts. This is it. That's what EOCO detailed. That's what they found based on their investigation. This 7-bedroom residential property in Latte, 2-bedroom residential property in Spintex, residential apartments at Jirigano, approximately 15 acres of land in Latte, the 5 bank accounts. Adam Senano is co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Senano, appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. And when we started reporting this earlier, the MPP, some persons in there, not the party official position, but some persons in there say this is a selective application of the law. But from what we are seeing now, the EOCO is on a path, is it not? And this is just probably the beginning of a long path of a lot more revelations as we're hearing, isn't it?
Well, I'd like to assume that due process is being followed. If they didn't have some substantive reason, it would not, in my mind, be justifiable to then say we are freezing any assets. It also tells a story because, on one hand, it's either that the allegations are being refuted, or else one would say you accept and you negotiate, you pay back. So it will be very interesting for us to get the exact facts, but to the extent that they are freezing property, clearly somebody believes there's a case to be answered, and at the moment they're not sure that the individual is able to, pay back that sum of money. For me, it's important that all officers who are occupying public positions be cautious, because gradually the citizenry is becoming much more, alert to these issues, and we are going to continue demanding accountability, and increasingly so. So let's see how this turns out.
And so, no, there's a pathway that I just outlined there. This modus of establishing companies and then moving monies around allegedly, and as we've seen, this is not the first time we're seeing this particular modus being employed. At least in some of the investigations, the Attorney General mentioned, and we're seeing this playing out according to this information that EOCO has put out. About 4 or 5 companies are mentioned in this web, okay, that EOCO has just outlined. But we've not, at least so far, heard the last of this matter. But for the many people, others who are also commenting say, you know what, this is not the first time we're hearing an investigative body, either the Attorney General or EOCO, put out information about suspects. We get to know how much they own in terms of property and whatever they've been involved in. The matter then gets to court. There's some silence on it. Then people begin to ask, what's going on? Because this information I've just put out there obviously is getting people infuriated. A lot of people are reacting and emotionally destabilized because, look, all of this. But then after some time, there's some quiet, and there's really no end as to exactly how things are playing out in the cases being investigated. Do you also, share in that sentiment about these investigations into alleged acts of corruption, as we have seen either communicated in a press conference by the Attorney General and what we are seeing now with the EOCO?
I think substantively we want these issues to be, as it were, resolved in court. And yes, it is not too useful if you have these things in the public domain, yet they are not being, as it were, adjudicated in court. Because it leaves the impression that maybe somebody is just trying to grandstand, and make people look bad. But if the issue is substantively before court, that means there are charges that have been filed. Charges have been filed, the person has their day in court, and the public is able to hear what the charges are, what the responses are. And at the end of the day, you can draw a fair conclusion. I have insisted that when it comes to cases in court, unless there is a clear breach of the law where all of us can read and say that the Constitution says this or the law says that, and there's something happening that infringes on a law or the Constitution, we ought to hold the court system and the judicial processes sacrosanct and not begin to impugn, partisan political positions. So I'm not about to, whether it is NDC or MPP, begin to say, oh, this is what do you call it? Is witch hunting and all that. No. See, when we begin to do that.
And Mesano, so on this matter, for instance, now we're based on this, we're getting to see how much is in his name as reported by EOCO. 7-bedroom, 2-bedroom residential apartment, and so on. I mean, there are those who have called for a lifestyle audit, a law on lifestyle audit, so that, I mean, if you see a public officer living beyond their means, there has to be a law that can kick in immediately, not after the person has left office. How about if they are never found out? How about if any public officer diverting public funds to their private use is never found out? Then the person gets to go. Okay, but in the absence of a law on lifestyle audit, so that when we all begin to see that, look, you're earning this much, we know, and then you're having to live beyond that, questions legitimately can be asked lawfully, is it not?
Well, yes, I would subscribe to all those who are advocating for that. It's a necessary tool in our space, including reverse burden of proof. Reverse burden of proof, so it's not up to the state or the prosecution, as it were, to adduce evidence that shows that something has gone wrong. You need to be able to demonstrate that your income sources allow you to be able to own all the properties, assets, and to engage in all the businesses or the transactions that you have engaged in. I think that, yes, a lifestyle or what we call illicit enrichment law, as well as a reverse burden law, would help strengthen the anti-corruption fight as we see it. And I insist that the parties, both, whether NDC or NPP, should stop this witch hunting and political positioning. When a case has been investigated and facts have been adduced that show that something amiss has gone on, let's allow the legal frameworks and judicial systems to work. And if there is a problem, that individual has the right to get out the legal team to appeal. So there's an appeals court, there's a Supreme Court. It allows us to examine all the facts and draw appropriate actions. But let's not begin to polarize and make political these processes. Let individuals answer for their tenure. That is what good leadership does.
And rightly so. And Mr. I appreciate you for this. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Mr. is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. He's also the chairperson of the African Union, that's advisory body on anti-corruption, joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And this is it. And this is it's something that we're keeping an eye on quite closely. In fact, based on the information that we have received so far, and exactly how EOCO is also pursuing this matter in the court of law regarding what they have gathered so far. This said fictitious over 5.8 million contract awarded to this company that its directors say they did not bid for this district needs assessment galamsey report, but yet over 5.3 million Ghana cedis was paid regardless to the said company. Another Masters Limited and Zone Construction Limited, two companies procured by the monies paid to this BMABA, that's company. And this scheme, according to EOCO, was allegedly used to layer and disguise the stolen funds. And that's why you see the charge of the money laundering in there that was earlier mentioned. Then there is another one at this Hillside Piggery, and also how they are involved in it. They're the third respondent in this particular case. Now, look, this is one that we're keeping an eye quite closely on, and how this matter will play out in the court of law. Remember that the Attorney General had already indicated that some oral cases will continue to run and be heard in the court of law despite the legal vacation that the courts are on. So we'll keep an eye on this one.